This is our third year filming a podcast here. So, this is the fun tropical edition of Roll for Crit.
Yay!
And also it's our first podcast in probably at least 2 or 3 weeks.
Yes.
Since our Gen Con wrap up. So bunch of regular style news to catch up on. Plus we got to play some really cool games, including some from Gen Con. So I recommend watching the rest of this episode. I've seen it and it's a good one. First up, speaking about Gen Con. Not speaking of, speaking about.
Yes.
Gen Con. Coming off of that, there's some hubbub about the hotel situation.
Yes, if you tried to get to Gen Con this year, you may have had some trouble getting a hotel room.
Yes, a lot of trouble in years past as well, but it's gotten worse. Apparently, over the past 5 years, the amount of hotel rooms available in Indianapolis has dropped by over 1,000.
That's significant.
1,000 rooms, and the biggest reason of this is, these hotels, a lot of them are being converted into other things. Some of them classrooms, apartment buildings, all kinds of things. And a lot of people, especially Gen Con people.
And there was another big event I remember in the article they mentioned.
Yeah, was it like a racing thing or something? A Grand Prix thing? Oh, that would make sense, Indianapolis. Are upset about this. They want, because obviously the less hotel rooms you have, the less people can get there, or it's harder for them to just get there.
Yeah, so the farther and farther you got away. I mean, we had our own issues that were fun.
Yeah, well, we are always struggling to get the best, closest one that we can. It's always, when you have a ticket to Gen Con, it's like a race. They have like the lottery system and whatever it is to try and get a room. It's real complicated. Certainly more rooms would be a help. And even besides Gen Con's, probably the biggest, maybe not, I don't know. It's definitely up there though, that Indianapolis has. But they have, that convention center is huge and they have conventions there all the time. So hopefully, people, at least we know it's a thing that people are concerned about and talking about. So hopefully we'll get that. I don't know how fast they can get it though, because it takes a while to build a hotel. Like, we might not be able to see any actual change in that department for years.
Well, the other thing that they're worried about is, because we mentioned this a while ago, that their contract for Indianapolis is expiring.
Right.
In the next few years.
And
so if they don't do anything with the hotel problem, they may be like, look, we need a place that has more hotels. You just aren't giving us that support. So
that's true. That's an interesting thought.
So it's going to be definitely interesting to see in a few years. Until then, we're going to be waiting at the computer, hoping to God we don't get a 3 o'clock check-in like last time.
Yeah. And next year, Gen Con it's the 50th one.
Oh, that's
very exciting, and it's late too. It's August 17th, so it'll be a different kind of vibe.
Hopefully, everyone will be back in school already.
Yeah. They actually might. I bet a decent amount of people will be. That's where we have the advantage, by not having any lives or any things to do. But we will see. That is Gen Con. Gen Con is not the only board game convention in the world.
No. Really?
No. It's a common misconception that it is. Of course, it's a big worldwide. Essen, the other biggest one. Just recently, the first ever board game convention was held in Africa, at least that we know of, in Nigeria specifically, but perhaps in all of Africa, which is pretty cool. It was organized by this guy who has this company, I think it's called KC Games, and they're talking about, it wasn't a large affair to like Gen Con was, but it's just their original games by African board game designers who live in that area, and we always talk about how, like we've talked about it before with, I know, the Japanese market, how we really appreciate seeing games come in from outside the standard, basically America or
Western
Germany, or there's some France, is really interesting just because I think you don't think about it as much with board games as you do with movies or narrative media, but there is a different perspective there, different kinds of experiences that can be translated to board games. I think they specifically were talking about one that was supposed to, relate the experience of living in Nigeria and stuff like that, which is a really interesting thing, and I think board games will bring about world peace. What about you?
I think in all forms of media, not just board games, but since it's board game, that's the one we're most important about. I really do think we need to take advantage of taking not like redoing like what movies do. The movies are doing the wrong lesson, but like seeing movies from other cultures or games and stuff, because they can bring new perspectives, more interesting styles. We're not forced to just play a reskin version of Ticket to Ride or a reboot of a movie we've seen 50 times that we know is already done well and doesn't need to be seen again.
I know we always get excited when there's any game that's about mythology that isn't Greek.
Isn't Greek
or Roman or same thing.
Like Greek, Egyptian.
Right.
Or like
the Bible.
Well, no, that one, because you don't see the
You really
ones
don't see that
so
too
that
much.
one actually is nearly
Yeah, but when it's like, oh, some crazy, gods that we just aren't familiar with, or any kind of mythology like demons.
We'll be getting back to the gods.
We'll get back to it all. Everything comes around. This is an international show too. Wait for our comments section.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's always cool to experience the different cultures coming through. And
well, not only that, just knowing like how much joy we get from board games in general, just to know that people are starting to get. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, it's not a Gen Con thing, but I don't think Gen Con was as big as Gen Con was when it first started.
Oh, well, that's very true.
I'm just happy to maybe even get the ball rolling, to sort of spread the influence and stuff, and I think that everyone should.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because I feel like most people just you don't think about maybe it's just me, but I know I'm ignorant and uneducated like a lot of Americans, and I'm like, oh yeah, board games come from a factory in China that gets sent there by a German guy, and I'm not like it'd be great to see more of a presence from many different cultures instead to have that there. Speaking of different presences and different cultures, moving right along.
Yeah.
To, again, Japan. Well, there is a game coming out of Japan that has been in Japan.
Yeah, 2 games actually.
That's true, 2 games, you're correct.
But they're both based from the same property. Speaking of when we're talking about video games and stuff as well.
Uh-huh.
This is coming from Square Enix, and they are bringing over 2 Final Fantasy games. One is a trading card game. I believe it's Final Fantasy OSU or
Opus.
Opus, that's what it was.
But I think that's like the name of the first set, maybe.
Right.
There's 3 different sets, kind
There's
of.
deck boxes, and there's also packs.
And I think the first ones are based on
the elements. Like
7, but they're just specific games too, right? What are the elements?
What I saw was elements saying like one's like fire and I think fire and air, like ice and lightning and darkness and light or something.
Elements. Well, I know it's Final Fantasy 7, 10, and 13. And you're correct. Each one is also associated with one of those elements you just said. So that's a whole big thing. Trading card game, Final Fantasy, big deal. Which we'll talk about that more. The other thing is a Chocobo card game, which is not a trading card game.
No,
it's
this
a
is a standalone box.
Little cute Chocobos.
Yeah.
If you don't know Final Fantasy, it's an RPG. Now it's
if you don't know Final Fantasy, then probably look into it.
It's weird that you're watching this.
Pretty big thing.
How'd you find us? Someone, this is like an old
woman
what are your
thoughts
pressed the
on
wrong
them,
key. And first of all, I don't know about Square Enix as the actual publisher and developer. They didn't mention any other companies. It's just Square Enix. So that's interesting from a video game perspective. I do wonder how well it will do here, because Final Fantasy is huge. But I feel it's not as huge as it once was.
No,
maybe in the public sphere.
We're they're both separate conversations.
Separate conversations.
Let's start with the trading card game. I've seen so many anime and video game card games come and go.
That's very true.
To me, this looks just like even like Force of Will. Like it sold it really fast early on, and then I noticed it died down a bit. It seemed, and to me, like, if you're not, especially in the American place, a lot of the Japanese card games I feel, when I see them, are very wordy. Like half the card is a text box. And I don't think that really does well in an American marketplace. There will be people who buy it because they're fancy fight, and I'm sure they'll love it.
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy, wow. I'm mixing up my games. But so many people, like when you play Magic, you're used to just counter spell, +1/+1, or this. Like, you want a nice, simple text box, and I just don't think, I think it's probably a translation issue. Like, I'm guessing on their cards, because maybe the words, it's just like, oh, this is, but for us, it's a whole.
Well, you look at Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I think because they have the extra budget, they put the bit more effort into making it, translating it for American audiences, where I feel like Force of Will is more like, we know this is for a niche audience, we're targeting it towards them, we're not going to try to broaden that.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I guess I just seen so many other similar ships sail in and fail.
Yeah.
But the other one, on the other hand, very excited for.
The Chocobo game?
It's really cute, nice small game. Chocobo is something that, even if you haven't played really any Final Fantasy, if you just know of it, you know the Chocobo. Mm-hmm. I think that's a much better idea, and I think that's where they should be going with Fantasy Flight. I think they should be Final Fantasy. I'm going to keep making the mistake. I don't think they should be making a trading card game, though, even if it does well in Japan. I mean, I would love if everything did well everywhere, like we were talking before with everyone. Mm-hmm. But I also know certain things just won't fly in other places for whatever cultural reasons. But I think a board game or a standalone card game would be amazing. Like, I think they should try to license out either to Cryptozoic or Upper Deck for either the deck building systems. I think those would be either of them would be solid choices. Mm-hmm. I think maybe a board game, especially mixing it with I forget the name of it. It was for the PSP. I think it's called Disgaea or something. It's like
Disgaea?
Yeah, it's like when they took pretty much all the main characters from every game, and it was sort of like Kingdom Hearts-ish, like thrown together. They're all fighting. Like a board game like that, like the same kind of story, and you choose which character from which game. I think that would really appeal to a lot of people, because then someone would be like, I'm Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. Like, oh, well, I get to be like, I can't think of another. Like,
I get to be
Leon,
Titus from Final Fantasy X.
Of course, yes. But like, I think those would be much smarter choices. I think that'll appeal to the Western market much more. Whilst I don't think you're giving up.
Maybe a living card game.
That would be interesting. I'd like to see if they risk that. I don't know how that does. Once again, though, I'm saying this from a Western perspective. These ideas might not do well in Japan.
Right.
So it's definitely one of those things that it's up in the air. But I would love to see those. In particular, I think the deck building style would definitely be a very good choice, because I definitely feel the ones that already exist are already appealing to the larger.
Anything with a huge cast of characters and abilities, it seems like it's a pretty easy translation in that department. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody out there who right now is saying, boy, I really want another trading card game. Like, I think it's definitely an uphill battle, but they do have the name Final Fantasy, so they could find a market.
Right. But that being said, going back to the Chocobo one, I do think that's a smart move. I do think, because that's the one thing they have done, I would say successfully, is while their Final Fantasy games are very, very heavy, very serious, and sometimes very convoluted storylines, they have also done like very chibi and cute.
It has a very...
And I think they should take advantage, and they're taking advantage of it, and I think it's a smart move.
It has a diverse fan, like it's not just like the hardcore gamer guys. Like I think there's a big female audience for Final Fantasy. It does have a broader appeal than some other properties.
No,
so
and that's why I think they could do it.
that.
And in particular, we can't mention this, since even though we're saying Final Fantasy, this is Square Enix.
Right.
Which means technically this includes Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
Which means Disney, and we all know Disney sells.
That'll be a thing, yeah.
So I think that's another thing they should maybe talk to Disney about. Like, look, I mean, we've made a lot of spin-off Kingdom Hearts games, and a lot of people are waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3. What if they actually took that?
And they already had a card game, kind of, in the video game version.
Right. No, but didn't they also have actual cards or something?
Don't know.
But I think they did. I think it was also a trading card game too, and then disappeared. But like that, like considering Disney already owns Marvel, which is already with Upper Deck, like
there's a lot of things that could happen there.
So I think they should look into those.
I want a Moogle game.
I mean, see, like that's the thing. Like you can name all these different.
Yeah. Just
so I think they have the property and intellectual to make a wide variety. I just think trading card games aren't the way to go maybe outside of Japan.
I would love like a boss monster style based on like the original Final Fantasy, pixel art and stuff. That would be cool. All right, so yes, anyway, that will be coming out next year. We'll find out, I think next year. Might be this year. find out. We'll see exactly how it turns out, whether we like it or not. Some other new games. Another new card game from WizKids. I believe they're calling it a new system, but the first game in that system is Dungeons and Dragons related. It's called Rock, Paper, Wizard.
Right.
And basically, it's a card game. Multiple players. You shout out Rock, Paper, Wizard, and you make a hand gesture of your choice. No, you will have a set of cards. Each card has a spell on it, and then it will indicate to you what gesture is associated with that spell. So, like, it could be a fireball, and you're fighting over a treasure, right? You just killed a dragon. You're fighting over its treasure and trying to get the most loot. So you would like do something to maybe push someone further away from the treasure,
or you get closer, or pull the treasure towards you.
Yeah, stuff like that. So it's an interesting concept.
It's something.
It's interesting to see something from WizKids too, because most of the time we see them with the same collectible recurring franchises kind of thing. So to see a new thing, although it is based in D&D again. It sounds like it could be a fun party game, maybe like how Crossing was, where everybody points at each other at the same time.
That one.
That kind of fast-paced, interesting, like
No,
bluffing,
I mean,
guessing.
it's definitely something we'll need to see, and I'm very curious how this is a system game. I can see it going both ways, but definitely sounds very silly. Depends also how complicated the hand gestures are.
Yeah,
I want you to imagine like rock, paper, wizard.
Yeah, and as far as I know, those are not actually. There's no rock, paper, or wizard. You just say those things, which you probably feel pretty stupid after the first time you say it. But yeah, that's a good point. How many gestures are there that you can do? I guess there's a lot. But I'd have to.
Well, then I also feel like there could be some that was like, oh, you're doing fireball. No, I meant this. I just couldn't raise my.
Well, then that raises the other question: how does that any better than literally just 1, 2, 3, flip a card? Which is what you're doing. Like, are you punished for not doing the gesture correctly?
I assume it's mostly just for the fun of it, like being
Whether or not it's fun is the question.
We'll find out.
Yeah, but that's interesting. That does come out in January, actually, of 2017. And yeah, I don't know. It's
something
pretty dumb. They had some other game with recently, blank dice, where you're writing on dice with markers. They also announced that. Whatever.
Well, that one can be more interesting.
It could be.
Because you can do more weird stuff like, all right, how do we decide who goes first? You roll the dice and it says, like, first to pick touch a sandwich or something, like something weird. Like you come up with weird ways. Or last one too.
Just for any game that you want. Then we've got a couple of expansions.
Both revolve around the same fantastic murderer, Jack the Ripper.
One of the best. He really was one of the best. From both from Asmodee. First one is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. This is, if you haven't played it, I wouldn't say story. It's kind of a storytelling game, but not really.
It's a cooperative mystery solving game in which you go through different scenarios. There's a little map, and you pretty much try to solve the mystery as quickly as you can, then compare it and see how poorly you did against Sherlock.
It's kind of like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
With deduction involved.
Including some other side mysteries going on.
Right.
We've played 2 stories so far out of it. We've loved it. I think we've been a little worried to do the third one because apparently it's not that good.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the only bad one apparently. But this expansion is adding to add some new stories and scenarios, which revolve around, guess who?
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper. Well, so it's called the West End, and yeah, at first there's a normal set of new cases, new newspapers, new stories, just more stuff, nothing really crazy. Then, as you said, the Jack the Ripper stuff. What's especially cool about it, it's, I believe, 4 cases, and you have to play them in order. It is, I don't want to call it a campaign because that seems like a buzzword that maybe doesn't apply here, but it is a continuous thing where you have to play them in order, unlike the original where you really could play any of them in any order. Although, actually, I don't know if that's true, because some of them actually refer back to older newspapers sometimes, but I guess this is more heavily dependent on that. So it's interesting, and you're trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper is. Of course, we don't really know, so
Because we actually never caught Jack the Ripper.
I'm curious
so
what
spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. The last page just says, "Sorry."
Oh no, spoilers. It's actually the Chupacabra.
Oh, that makes too much sense. But I mean, it's pretty
Illuminati
cool.
confirmed.
More cases for that game.
No, I mean we've loved
Definitely
it.
people want that.
No, we've loved it, and I'm very excited to actually receive. I don't think it's made by them. It's made with some similar who did a similar game design, except it's Cthulhu related. Mythos Tales, I believe it's called.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
backed that Kickstarter. I'm very excited to receive that, and we're gonna have fun playing that too.
Yeah, it's a fun design mechanic. It
Where
really is.
we like our mysteries.
We like to play games that barely count as games.
But the other one
Yes.
is the expansion for when the base game actually is all about Jack the Ripper.
Yes.
Letters to Whitechapel, very popular game in which one player plays as the Jack the Ripper, the rest as cops, and they're pretty much trying to catch him. And it's one of those games where the Jack the Ripper player has his own little board. He's moving around trying to move through the city without
Hidden
getting
movement,
caught.
stealth
Yeah.
kind of game.
Very fun. Definitely it's sort of like playing hide and go seek tag. So it's very silly for both sides to be like, where is he? And just like go around loops and then ask him, I search here. You found me. What?
Yeah, lots of fun. Plus, there's murder in it. This new one is called Dear Boss, and it basically has a bunch of new variants that are all optional that you can put in, and depending on how you feel with the game, they will make one or the other side more powerful. And the original game had some things like this too, because it seems like everybody who plays the game always has an opinion of, depending on their group, which side they think always wins or always loses.
Yeah, no one says, I think, oh, it feels balanced. Like,
Right.
I definitely feel it depends who plays, but definitely in our group, I think Jack has only won once
Yeah.
out of the 3 or 4 times we've played.
I think that's
And
right.
that was, I was the Jack the Ripper. And I think definitely the big issue with that is we didn't try any of the variants. And I think I don't think it's a problem with the game, like how they wrote the rules. I think it's just in general with this or the other big game similar to it, Spectre Ops. Once you play it like 2 or 3 times, you sort of learn the turns that Jack can make. Mm-hmm. Like the more you play it, the harder it is for Jack. But the earlier games are much easier for Jack, even though we've caught him.
I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
And I think that's why I think variants are good for this kind of thing.
So, for example, some of these now you can give each cop has a special power, like they could actually move across an alleyway or a building block. And for some of the ones are for Jack, give him special abilities as well. Some of them actually can give him specific identities, so they actually include some suspects that were from that time period, and like it'll require him to be in a specific place and give him a power also, different things like that. The thing that I'm most excited about from this is that it also comes with new miniatures. So
that actually look like.
Yeah, in the original one they were just kind of pawns. In this one you have fully sculpted, detailed, looks like people figures, which is nice.
Yeah. Overall, I'm definitely excited for both these. I think both of these games are actually within probably our. While we do need to play them more. I do think we'd both agree they're on the top end of our list.
Yeah, they're really fun.
We love Sherlock Holmes because we like mysteries where it's almost a game.
Yeah.
And we really do like the other one because it's the 1v, and I'm not usually a fan of the 1v all, but I like these mystery ones because I like the tag aspect because it's almost like the other one. You're more solving a puzzle, really, than you don't really feel as much like. There's some other the 1v all games I usually get annoyed because it usually feels like either great I'm just getting ganged up on or the one person's so powerful you just feel worthless, and I don't feel like that because it's more of cat and mouse.
You're not actually attacking each other or anything.
Right, and I think that cat and mouse aspect is what makes it work in this situation.
For sure.
So for me, that's why I think these definitely both fit. And of course, you put Sherlock Holmes on anything for me. That's one of those. There's 3 keywords you put on me, and I'll be like, I'll take it.
We need the Sherlock Holmes expansion for Whitechapel now, so we can come full circle.
Oh god, no, someone gets to play Sherlock.
One person Sherlock. They just know everything.
Yeah, they're just like,
here he is.
He's allowed to walk behind the map and just.
Very unfair. They really need to nerf Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, we're really looking forward to those now.
Well, actually, you know what he could do? He could have a power that each turn he can force Jack to give him 2 numbers, 1 true, 1 lie, where he currently is.
Yeah, that's if your Jack the Ripper is just too good. That's if the rest of your cops are like you're playing with 6-year-olds.
Or you mean our regular?
You
group.
need some help. Yeah, that is what I meant. I didn't want to say it. I wanted to be nice. You do have a couple of Kickstarters you wanted to mention. I really want to hear about this first one, which is called Complicated Board Game, the Card Game.
Yes, this actually comes from a friend of mine from college. It's
Is this a good friend, like an acquaintance?
No, good friend.
Okay,
yes.
okay. I've never met him, though.
Yeah, I didn't.
I didn't want to
yeah.
introduce you to him.
Last time I brought friends over to your college to visit you, you're like, "What? No, get out of
It's
here."
a real problem.
Yeah. So I learned that you didn't want to mix the.
So what is this game?
So the idea is it's pretty much like a parody of like all the things we know and love in board games. Mm-hmm. And the way it's sort of like what it reminds me of a lot is Flux, but not as just random. Like there's actually some strategy to it, because the way the game works is there's a deck and you'll draw 4, and there's 4 different kinds of cards, really, or 5 I think. Let me go through my head. There's cards you can play, and this pretty much is like the objects. Like I think there's like soldier, sheep, alien. I forget what the other two, but like common things you see in board games and stuff.
Got it.
And then there are secret gold cards, which you actually will place in front of you hidden, and they'll be like, they'll be like a center play area where you play the sheep, the alien, and you'll be like, maybe you get 3 in a row. Or maybe get an alien with 2 sheep underneath, like see certain combinations. Then there are events like flip the table, and I drop my die, the one-time events, which I like, which makes it different. And then, of course, this is where it reminds me of Flux, there's rules. Such as, this is a trading card game in which you're allowed each turn trade one of your cards with an opponent. Or no rules lawyers, no one can mention the word rule. And then finally, there's actually, when playing a card, there'll be a rule saying like you have to play like diagonal, horizontal, or vertical, and there's a card to play that. So it really is a lot, it's like, it has what we'd like from Flux, the random rule change, but actually purpose, I would say.
It sounds like a similar kind of sense of humor, like Munchkin, or even Smash Up a little bit, the mishmash of all the different elements.
But like taking everything that we love from board games and boiling it down into a complicated board game, the card game.
I like it. Definitely a good, it sounds like probably a good, it's a lighter game, I take it. Filler game for like heavy gamer groups to get
it sounds like the perfect game for a board game group. Like it's just all the things you love. Like I'd love to see some more of those rule cards, and just want to know how else they pull in, like if the trading card game, those rule lawyers, like I imagine there could be like dice rolling, and everyone it's all random numbers or something.
There's plenty you could draw from. There's plenty of stupid things to make fun of.
That's going for about $20, I believe, if I recall correctly. But definitely something to check out, not just because it's a friend of mine, but it actually looks like a lot of fun for if you're into board games. And the other big one is really, this is more mentioned because we've already said it almost every time. Because it was at Gen Con, was Sandy Peterson's The God's War.
Which looks pretty cool.
Yeah, we've loved everything that we've played of his so far. And very excited about this. It's already got like, I think, 400,000 or something, or 43, or is it 43? I'm off by 10. But still, zero. They've hit a whole bunch of stretch goals already. So like a whole bunch of added figures and stuff.
That's good.
So, and I think they're already about to hit another one. When I last checked, like all new figures and stuff. Really awesome. If you're into miniatures, I think this is a no-brainer. He does amazing miniatures. The games themselves are amazing. I mean, they're the size of them. Like, there's my favorite one still is this guy like who's called like the Flayer, I believe. And he's like a skull with like a cape of skin, and that's it.
Well,
it's like this big.
Go back and watch our Gen Con wrap-up podcast. We talk about it there, and you see some of the images, and then of course you can check out the Kickstarter as well.
But definitely, I mean, like just like Cthulhu Wars, it's pricey, but it's one of those things I think it's a worthwhile investment. Like, you're not getting like a bunch of small miniatures in a mediocre game. This guy has proven time and again he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing, folks, and so do we. What we're doing is moving on from Kickstarter into our games played section. It doesn't have a name. No. Talking about some of the things that we got to play
the new stuff,
this weekend.
Really,
Yeah, well, let's just go in order.
Okay.
So the first one we got to play is not a new game, but it was the first time that we tried it.
Yeah.
Historia.
Yep.
This was a really interesting game. Essentially, it's a similar thing to any other civilization-style building settlement games where each person took the role of not necessarily a country, but
a nation, I would say.
Yeah, like I was America.
Someone was ancient Egypt, China. I was France. The game really revolves around.
I guess they are countries.
Yeah, I guess it's more like it takes the whole era. Mm-hmm. So because I think like Neil, I think it was Neil, was like Germany, but he was like including when it expanded, and so like Germany's border has changed a lot over the years. The game really, the main component of the game is the tech tree. Right. Really, there's a board that represents sort of the technology growth. As you move horizontally across it, represents you learning new technology. As you move horizontally, is actually you advancing the strength of your military. So each area is also colored. So like, if they're like the far left but up is the barbaric era, which like gave you more advantages if you're playing more militaristic, obviously. If you move more, I think if you went all the way to the right and barely built military, you actually would be called, that's the utopian, he said. But they all, in essence, it's rewards you, it makes sense for where you're growing. What was your opinion?
Well, it's definitely, it's a super Euro-y game. Mm-hmm. Although the theme, they do what they could. It is definitely, it's almost, I don't know what the word is, impressive to see, like you were talking about, it's a tech tree. Like a lot of games and video games and board games incorporate a tech tree style progression. This is tech tree the game. Like your board is a grid of squares and you're moving pawns on it. There is also a little map, which is you also have territories, and that's another aspect of it. So there's kind of this miniature risk aspect of it. At first, I was super intimidated and worried because there's a lot of symbols that you have to learn to know what the cards do. We picked up on them pretty quickly, though. We got used to them as time went on. And overall, although I was kind of surprised. Like at first, I was like, "Oh boy, this is definitely the Euro game." I actually found myself enjoying it a good amount. Like I definitely would want to play it again, and try different strategies. Like we definitely didn't explore all of those. Try a different nation. I appreciated that everyone had an individual powers, and there were the random wonders or maybe they weren't random, but they came up different ones each time. Who bought them? You didn't know. So there was enough variety to me to keep it from being too dry, and I kind of liked it. What about you?
Honestly, I mean, I need to play the board game version, but it just made me feel like I was playing a worse version of Civ.
Right.
And I mean, I guess my biggest issue was that to me at first, I was really excited to play this. This is one of the games I wanted to get into. I'm excited that someone actually bought it in our group. Mm-hmm. The tech tree, I loved the idea of the tech tree at first, but then to me, like, it didn't matter. It didn't feel like it. I didn't want to grow. Like, I wasn't excited to grow my tech tree, I guess. Like, the new stuff didn't really, I don't know how to say, like, shoot me out of the water, just tough. And then I guess this is not just this game, it's a lot of games like this, with the scoreboard and the way it worked. I felt like I sort of just, like, first of all, my strategy only worked because it was the first time we ever played this.
Huh, yeah, right.
I would have been caught easily, would have lost by huge. I pretty much went monuments. And I was shocked no one realized I got like every one that said first in monuments.
Yeah, you had you were way ahead for a long time, but ultimately you came in second, right?
Yeah, because this is one of the things I always hated. This is why I prefer a game where the score's hidden. Because I really hate it when all of a sudden everyone just gangs up on you.
Right. It's for sure. It's one of those. That's a whole other topic that we.
And then the other thing that happened in this was a very long game, and I was always last to go. I was just so like, I'm not gonna be able to do anything I can because everyone's gonna take it and stuff. It just felt So like
I know how you feel. I know what you mean.
maybe it's because we were playing with. It probably wouldn't have been bad if we were playing with 3 or 4, maybe.
I agree with that for sure. We played with a full group of 6, which did feel a lot, especially for our first time.
Yeah.
Did definitely make the game drag a little bit. I mean, I cannot dispute the fact that
And
it is a worse version of Civ.
The other, I probably would have been fine if I was more excited. Like, you mentioned that everyone had their unique countries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a deck of unique people. Like, you had Elvis in your deck, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But you, as far as I can tell, we'll only get 3 of them. And to me, I wish there was more of the. Like,
I completely agree with that. I really thought those were underused. I wish, because those were some of the more fun things. Otherwise, all your cards are the same as everyone else's. So I definitely would have liked to see more come from that. So yeah,
it's an interesting game, and I'd probably be willing to play it again. It's just, to me, there's some things I was disappointed about it.
Yeah,
I guess
I
should
think
say.
your criticism
But
is definitely
I think
fair.
that was partly because I was going in so excited for it.
I was not.
Yeah.
All right, so next we got to play Speechless, which we
Yes.
talked about also in our Gen Con episode.
Yes, and that was a lot of fun.
Basically, it's charades, but instead of calling out the answers, everybody writes them down on a whiteboard and tries to guess 6 words in a row as one person acts them out. We did it with a full group, actually bigger than what they suggest.
Technically.
They say 2 to 8. We had 9 people, but you technically don't need one person to have a scoreboard. They're acting it out, so you could do it with 9.
And it worked fine.
It worked. I'll talk about it. Why?
All right.
Why? The only thing I thought about it.
Well, no, there's one thing, but I think I know what you're going to say, and we'll wait until we get there. But
Don't
yeah.
you like when we tease things 2 minutes from
But
now?
the game itself, let's focus on the mechanics. I think it works really well because, one, I like the silence part and just drawing, because I think that way, first of all, because of a certain show, we don't get someone going, Jackal, Jackal, it's a Jackal, Jackal, Jackal.
And for when there's 8 people in a room, you're not shouting over each other. It's not chaos. Who said that
actually,
first?
with going to the WarioWare, we also played a little video games, and you played a
yeah.
WarioWare game with drawing, and then it'd be like first person
It was
shouting.
the
It would
same
sound like,
thing.
who said chair first?
Right. You avoid that problem.
Yeah.
It was really, it's a super simple game. I mean, it is, if there's the biggest valid criticism of it, I would say, is that it is so similar to charades. You almost might feel like, but you'll probably be able to pick it up for $20, 25 max once it's
No,
stores.
I think that's a fair criticism. It did remind me of another game like that. There used to be a game we used to play where you would say all right, you'd have 5 categories. Everyone had 5 categories. First one would be animal, then like board game, then movie, then music, then car. And then we go, all right, first we're doing the letter R. Everyone would write something that starts with the letter R in each category.
Okay.
And then you compare them and see if someone matched, you'd actually no one would get points. This is the opposite. If you match, you actually get points.
Yeah.
So like, it's definitely very I feel it just borrows off almost like games that don't need you to buy something.
Yeah, but for a casual party thing, I mean,
No.
it's very easy. It's super fun to get people to play. The thing that I was going to say about the number of players, which we talked about, the only thing is you play a certain number of rounds depending on how many players you have. If in our game each of us just went up to act out something once,
Yes.
I kind of thought it'd be, I wanted to do that again. I felt like
we also mentioned that we honestly could have done it twice.
we could have, but first,
no, I would have rather. I mean, I would love to do this with 5 people because it has 10 and everyone gets 2. So I definitely agree with that criticism. But to me, playing with the 8 and 9 people wasn't like.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call it a criticism. It's just like something that I would like about the other version more. It was still lots of fun.
Yeah, and it was really funny, especially when I got the word coconut because I had no idea what to do with that. Honestly, I did a Hail Mary, and of course no one got it because I don't know why you would, and tried to act out Executor from Pokemon because I didn't know what else to do.
It was
and then
good.
Later, Neil came up with an amazing
You're like,
one.
how would you even do it? And Neil was like, he basically just mimed the exact thing a coconut is, and we're just like, oh wow.
Yeah,
Very
I was just like, oh my god, why didn't I do that? And there were some other great things there, but definitely, I think it was one that we're happy with the purchase.
If you like games,
Oh, actually, one big criticism about it.
what?
Yellow markers.
Oh yes, it came with multiple colors of dry erase markers, 2 of which were yellow. And you could barely read it on your sheet.
So if you're watching this, that's our
Get
one
your own
thing.
markers.
Either get your own markers, or if you're Asmodee, is it Asmodee?
No, Arcane Wonders.
Arcane Wonders, No more yellow markers. No more.
Not. I have no idea.
We love
why they did
everything
that.
else. Take that out.
Really bizarre choice.
But moving on.
Still good. The other one that we got to play, which is Asmodee, was Captain Sonar. This was a big hotness one. We got a ton of views on our Captain Sonar preview from Gen Con. We finally got to play a full game.
We got to play 2 games, really.
Yeah, that's true.
We did both the turn-based, because we wanted to learn, and an actual live. Both of them were very interesting.
So it's a submarine game. You're on 2 teams. It's a lot like Battleship, but as everybody has their own specific role, and as you said, in the main version of the game, it takes place in real time, so everyone's taking their turns as fast as they can go. And we had a full team of 8 people to 2 teams of 4. I got to do 2 different roles, and so did you, I think.
Yep.
So,
Well,
what did you like? Which roles did you like?
I loved my 2 roles, the
Okay.
captain and the radio.
Okay.
The captain's fun because you're right, you're running the ship. I mean, how could you not like that? We were both captains first game.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic because the first
Oh
game
my God.
was turn-based. And for whatever reason, we both used sonar stuff. Turns out we were side by side.
We had like almost the exact same
Not only
route.
that, we both of our radio operators missed a move, the same move. So we both then were confused about where the other person was.
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe we made a mistake and I might know where you are, in which I launched a torpedo and a mine and actually killed you.
Yeah.
It was really amazing. Like, because, and I actually were like, let's end here. I'm like, you know what, can we use our bombs and stuff? And you're like, yeah, you know what, let's see if you hit us. And then it turned to be direct hits both times.
It was pretty brutal. It was pretty brutal.
But it was amazing. It was just hilarious.
It was a weird
but
game for sure.
Definitely the live, not
Real-time
real
version.
time. Thank you. That's the word. Definitely the preferred method. I think it was a lot more fun. It makes more sense with the game mechanics. I mean, it was nice to play the turn first to learn the roles.
For sure.
And that one was a lot more interesting. Much more of an actual dogfight, which I liked. It definitely felt more like a back and forth.
It really does feel like because you're moving your subs at the same time in the same waters.
And it's actually really funny because you do sort of, especially me, because my role was the radioman in that one. In that one, I'm actually not listening as much to my own team as I am listening to your team.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which is really fun, and it's for a puzzle trying to find, and which I think you'd love. You'd really love that role.
From what I've seen, I think the 2 you did are to me, look like the most fun roles.
Yes.
I didn't get to try radio operator. I really want to. The other one I did was engineer, where you're checking off systems depending on which direction you move. You have to manage that. Then there's also the first mate who deals with charging systems and using them. I do.
So technically, you've also done first mate.
That's true. I tried first mate at Gen
So you've
Con.
done everything but radio.
I do really feel like those other engineer and first mate are much more. You're not really making very many decisions. You are, but a lot of it is really dependent on what you think the captain and and then the first mate and so on want you to do. So I felt like radio operator and captain seemed more fun to me. It seemed like there was more agency. It was your radio operators kind of doing their own thing and helping people, and also engineer is also definitely the most complex, at least initially. Like, the way things work.
I'm definitely afraid of ever doing that one. I wanted to bring up something and I totally forgot.
You can do it.
Oh, going back to how I'm listening to you, and this is where another thing that comes fun. I heard you guys talking earlier, for example, like maybe we should surface and do this and stuff.
Right.
And then there came a point where we're taking damage. I'm like, guys, we should surface, and like really, like trust me. And like when our team said surface, all of a sudden you're like, guys, we should surface too.
Yeah, because when you surface, you're vulnerable. But if you both surface at the same time, it's like
It was just really funny how it's sort of like it's true. So we both realized,
we both screwed up. Like, we better do this.
It definitely was. I mean, it's gonna be hard to do with less people. I don't know how.
I was thinking, like I said about the other roles, I do think 3 and 3 might be pretty good.
Might be. Oh, okay,
I think
the first mate can be
You
collapsed.
could easily add first mate to captain.
And I think that's probably the biggest problem with first mate, the fact that he so easily collapsed.
Yeah.
But to me, this definitely was unbelievably fun. A lot more fun than I thought. Like, I thought I was going to enjoy it, but like actually the live and actually the puzzle. Like one of the reasons we won the second game, my team, because I think I actually switched sides.
Yeah, we switched sides.
We were shuffling around with people and stuff, but we won because even though you did the stealth drive, which lets you be silent, because at the second board it was sort of fun. Like, oh wait, okay, I'm gonna draw their path before there, and then they can only be here and here. So I was able to match lines up there and stuff, and
yeah, there's a lot of really cool deduction and strategies.
no,
going
so
on.
definitely.
And there's extra maps. We only did the basic map. There's all kinds of cool ones.
The ice one sounds fantastic.
Yeah, where if everything's covered in ice and if you want to surface, you better go somewhere without ice over it or you take damage.
So yeah, and it was also really fun to when we're doing the repair with the lines. It was really funny because you guys finished first, and then we're like,
oh yeah,
and you're just like, no.
Yeah, you have to draw inside of the lines.
But it definitely seems. I'm very curious to see other people play because it seemed both of our games, because we sort of save up. It seems to be like as soon as you know where they are, you're just dropping everything on them.
Right. Yeah. I think the maps will definitely change that.
I want to know how other people, if there's more like, all right, he's got 1 damage, now 2 damage. Oh, they got 3 now, so they're gonna play much more defensively. Mm-hmm. Like it seemed like for us, it was just like, all right, we're going all in now. Launch the mine, we'll take the damage. Launch the torpedo, we're going all in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely interesting to see the meta game arise in that. Yeah, a lot of fun.
One thing I think our group's mostly fine with it. I can see it depends who you're playing with. There is a really good chance of a mistake happening.
Sure. Well, it's like Space Alert. You know, I think part of the game is you have to try to pay attention and keep up.
My only issue, maybe like not saying you got damaged or something because you didn't know. My only problem with that compared to Space Alert is that this isn't cooperative.
That's true.
But you have to take that with a grain of salt if there's a mistake here and there. So I'm warning you, if you have someone who would get very aggressive on that, then maybe this isn't the game for you.
Yeah, right. You don't want a perfectionist on your team necessarily.
Oh God, if they're your captain?
Yeah, could be a little scary.
But overall, amazing game. A lot of fun. I think this is the last of the new ones we played.
That's the ones we played.
Yeah,
really.
we also played the Naruto deck building because a friend wanted to try it out, and the
we played Fun Employed. Yeah.
But I mean, we've talked a lot about them. Nothing new. I mean, your classic hilarious antics and Fun Employed, and as well as the Naruto. We've said how we feel compared to the other ones.
Let's take it to the mail.
Where?
That's the new thing that I'm gonna say.
Okay, take it to the mail.
Let's take it to the mail. We got some good thoughts on some games. Falcon Ash K had some thoughts about that new Star Wars Destiny Fantasy Flight game.
The card and dice one?
Correct, the card and dice one. There are dice. Said he's glad to see it's not the same game style as Dice Masters. Reminded more of Ashes a little bit, which I could definitely see. Makes it feel like a whole other game, keeping the Star Wars theme. However, he thinks the price tag is high. Fits a $15 starter for 1 player. So you need 2 to play with 2 players, and you can't play with 1 player, so you need 2. Compared to Dice Master, which is a starter for 15 for 2 players, and the boosters are $4 to $5, which comes with 5 cards and 1 die. And he says he's sunk over hundreds into Dice Masters. Doesn't know if he wants to get into another collectible card game. It is something that we had thought about. It is a little pricey.
Well, any time with a card game that happens, and while I understand the $15 thing. At the same time, I don't think they expect one person to buy both of them. They expect you to buy one and I buy one.
But it means you gotta make a friend buy one.
That's true.
So there's still something you gotta do.
No, I mean, yeah.
I don't think, at the end of the day, it's $15, worst case scenario, you really want to buy 2, it's $30. It's not the end of the world, but I do think they can get away with it because it's Star Wars.
And you also, you played it and I didn't, so I can't comment.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty fun for what it's worth.
Right.
Anyway, Glenn Cooper agrees with us about our thoughts on the Dungeons & Dragons, playing it in Roll20. Commenting on old videos here, but that's okay. We like them all, new and old, big and small.
We'll take them all.
He says, completely agree, especially that bit about the map and monsters being turned into like a dungeon-clearing computer game. Kind of removes the theater of the mind aspect. Much prefer describing and only producing maps right at the last moment, which is kind of the path we have taken with our D&D game, and I think we all agree we like it.
Well, I definitely feel from my end, I mean, we're going to talk from 2 different ends here, that I know with the computer one, I'd be like, okay, I move here, And then, I'd open a browser and just do my thing
Right.
while you're...
Right. I do produce some of the maps beforehand, though. I make them all. Well, I make them. I don't show them to the players, though.
Well, that's that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
And I think that's fine for you to have a map.
Right.
But I think it's better...
I would hope that I have
Well,
one.
I like going through the first dungeon you made. I liked it a lot more because to me, first of all, I was drawing a map, which was cool. Like I actually have a journal for my character now, which is cool. And we'll show photos maybe at the end of some way through a campaign of all my fun little drawings. But to me, a lot of the fun comes then from like, it's not just an annoying hedge maze. Like that last D&D beginner's guide thing was just
It wasn't designed for that environment. It just didn't work out.
It wasn't fun to go around there. But to me, I feel like you're gonna actually design it like, okay, I'm not gonna make it maybe not make it complicated, but more like focus on like puzzles and things like that, which I think is a lot more fun. Even if we are too stupid to realize.
You don't want to get stuck in the navigation aspect. Keep tuned for more of those D&D episodes.
Because to me, the big thing about dungeons and stuff, you shouldn't have to backtrack. Like, how often do you hate in video games when you have to backtrack because there's so many different paths? So you're like, oh, I should make sure I explore every path, and you go all the way around this path.
Yeah, it's the OCD part of you also. Zippity Doo Dah Day.
Is it a wonderful day?
Had some ideas about a certain musician that might get a card game based on them, in addition to the Insane Clown Posse. Says Alice Cooper has some very extensive mythology throughout his many concept albums, much like Insane Clown Posse. Someone needs to give him and his Hollywood vampires a deck-building game just like this.
Well, that reminds me, there's actually apparently a phone video game for, now I just totally blanked on the name of the band, but they always have...
Hanson.
No, they have like dead zombies on all their albums.
Insane Clown Posse.
That's it. No.
Rob Zombie?
No, it's like a rock band, but...
Kiss.
No. Anyways, they have a game like they actually took, because each one has a different mod, like one's like an undead, one's a mummy, one's like an undead Union soldier and stuff. So they actually like threw them all in a game as playable characters and stuff. So like maybe there is something to like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good. I think we should do it.
When are we gonna get our Michael Jackson legendary?
Yeah, I thought that's what you were talking about. Thriller, the zombies.
Never mind.
So give us your more ideas for your band games, because we like that. Final comment comes from a person whose name I cannot say because it is written in what I believe are Korean characters.
Okay.
They are talking about our review of the Robinson Crusoe expansion, Voyage of the Beagle. They fully agree with our opinions. Scenario 3 was their least favorite.
We swear we look at all comments.
Yeah, due to many random events. They were a little disappointed. Overall, they thought it was a pretty solid expansion. They hope the next expansion would have more of the base game elements instead of being something completely new. More adventure cards, more options on the board for the worker placement. And stuff. Yeah, and I can agree with that. I think it'd be nice to have a more standard addition to it instead of a crazy offshoot like that one was.
Well, what I would think, because I'm thinking the next one, I'm thinking the Cthulhu one he said he's going to come out with.
Right.
Like, some of the things I would like to see is a hunt deck, and maybe there's some really weird things in the hunt deck. Like, considering the Cthulhu Mythos has a lot of weird creatures.
It's juggalos.
All right, moving on.
That's going to do it.
And maybe some weird tiles and stuff, but they're still the same thing. It's still an exploration and stuff like that. So, like, I think you can add
There's a way to balance. Yeah, for sure. So, I'm sure we'll be getting more Robinson Crusoe. Well, we're getting the new edition. That should have some new stuff.
And then, of course, there's that Mars one.
That's right. The First Martians or something. There's like 4 Mars games. Don't remember which one it is. Anyway, that's all our comments, and that's all of our show. Back on our regular schedule now. Expect to see us again Mondays in the future for your board game news and board game needs. If you want to give us some feedback, just like those nice people did, you can leave a comment right on this video down below. YouTube it. You can also email us, rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And we're on plenty of other social media sites, such as Twitter, @rollforcrit, Facebook, Instagram, and more.
Indeed, so many more. Don't forget to subscribe on Facebook. We're also on iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube as well. Like us on Facebook.
But
either way.
If you want to go to the source, there's only one place to go, rollforcrit.com, where we post many of news articles as well as post all our videos. and have a lot of fun games to sell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We sell some good ones on there, so make sure that you check it out because it's great. And let us know what you thought about it, if you liked it.
But for now, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this has been our tropical edition of the Roll for Crit podcast.